This affects communities every day. It affects, health outcomes, social outcomes, the amenity in the places people live, and it affects their feeling of connection to their communities, because if they don't feel like they can have any influence over what's going on locally, the tendency, I think, is to disconnect, to become less involved in democratic processes. And there's a whole lot of unmet need, a lot of people who are unhappy with how things currently work, but don't even know where to start. Because it's difficult. It's difficult to figure out how you make a complaint effectively, and to realise you have to be able to persist to be heard properly. In principle, again, there is provision for community involvement, but in practice there's not that much community involvement, not meaningful involvement that community members feel good about, feel that they've been listened to. And it's vitally important, given what we know about the research evidence and the availability of alcohol and the promotion of alcohol, that communities are able to influence what happens in their vicinity. I'd encourage them to educate themselves about the sorts of resources that are available, because there are community law centres, there's the likes of the Australian Drug Foundation, the Foundation for Alcohol Research and Education, NGOs who want to support communities to do these things. But they probably in for a fairly long battle, and it'll be frustrating. It'll undoubtedly be frustrating, because that labyrinth, it's easy to get lost in it, and there are plenty of points at which you can be sort of held back. It's a psychoactive substance. It's something that most people who use it find pleasurable. The question is, how do you, if this was going to be regulated as a drug now, you couldn't get it regulated because of the cancer risk, for example, it's a grade 1 carcinogen. That's well known, and it's toxic to many tissues in the body. So you couldn't get it approved. It's obviously a remnant of thousands of years of human civilization, but we need to find a way to live with it. And treating it like it's toilet paper or washing powder makes no sense at all. We've got a license to sell it. That's appropriate, but the conditions that are brought to bear on licensees are, at this point, far too liberal from the point of view of failing to protect the public from harm. 3/4 of the alcohol consumed in Australia is purchased from off-licence. It's even as much as 80%. So what happens from off-licence sales is really important. But we need legislation that will enable communities to have a say much more easily than they do at the moment. We've had reform come from the other side of politics, so it's capable of coming from either side of politics, and opposition is capable of coming from either side of politics. I'm not so cynical to think that you can't get change if there's concerted effort. So putting pressure on local parliamentarians, but writing to the minister, writing to the Premier and saying communities need more say in what happens locally with regard to the sale of alcohol, and the current systems are too bureaucratic and stacked in favour of vested interests.